Hello! It's Devlin here, and welcome to another edition of Devlin's Pirate Radio Show. And I have got a great show today. Well, you know, I always have a great show. I know I can't really tell because we're doing it live and that, but I am excited. I have a co-host with me, and as much as I love those times where I just talk and ramble on by myself, it is fun to share the air sometimes. The first time I met this man, the first thing I noticed about him is his handsome face. He has an incredible smile that I think I once described as sweet and innocent, but when you stare at it long enough, you start seeing this little wickedness coming through, and I just noticed that when I first met him. I first met him when I believe I taught improv, and he was coming out as a student, which most of the people you've met here so far, that seems to be the origin story. I remember it was about the second or third time he came into boot camp, and he said, "Could I use your stage before class?" And I said, "Sure, go ahead." Nobody's in there. And I remember about 10-15 minutes later, I came in, and I think my tongue and jaw hit the floor, because he was stripped down in a muscle tee, and shorts and doing, like, I think you were doing push-ups, and I just was like, oh my god, I'm looking at this god. He's just really in great shape. I'm probably making him feel really embarrassed now. He's loving it, trust me. But the thing that I found most attractive is, as I got to know this man over the years, you know, he is smart, he is outspoken, I enjoy talking with him, and that is honestly his most attractive quality, that, you know, you can rely on your looks, but if you got more to offer, that's even better. Waste no more time. My co-host here is Mr. Andre Guantanamo. Did I say it right?
I think you might have dropped an N.
Did I?
Guantanamo. Yeah.
Guantanamo.
Yeah.
Yes.
How are you?
Good. Thank you for coming.
Oh, happy to be here.
Are you?
Yeah.
I didn't flatter you too much. Is that?
Could use a little bit more, actually.
Oh,
you know, goddamn, I love hearing about myself.
Do you remember that when I came in and saw you? I loved that you were so. Oh, you can stay, because I immediately was like, oh, I'll let you get back to it, but you were like, no, you can stay.
You know what? It's just one of those things when you're working out in an ostensibly public place. You know, you can't be like, oh, I need you to leave while I do this. And I mean, I just kind of, part of my lifestyle is I'm either working out on set all the time, or if I have, you know, time between appointments, I'll be in a park or whatever. So I just got used to working out around other people, and that's it.
Well, I remember being in there, and I think I lasted about 5 minutes, but I couldn't concentrate on my notes. My eyes kept diverting back, because you were always doing different, like, positions. You may have been standing on your head at one time, am I right? Or is this just a dream I had?
It might have been a dream.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Okay. You're not a headstand person too often?
Here and there. Not as part of my regular regimen, but I've been known to do a headstand or two.
Oh. Well, you're lucky being radio. Really, I can't ask you to do that. Cause
actually, for
he's doing it right now, actually.
I'm actually upside down while I'm podcasting.
Okay, so we're going to do the interview section. This is where I pretend I don't know you. And you know what? I think there's a lot I don't know about you, so I'm very excited. So, what's your nationality? Like,
well, I was born in Canada.
Okay.
My mom's family is Italian, and my dad's family is Portuguese.
Yeah, because when I look at you, I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but you kind of got like a Vin Diesel type. You know, no, I'm not saying you look like Vin Diesel. I'm saying you have that. You could be multiple ethnics. Like, you look like, I would say Italian, you know, Greek,
Middle Eastern?
Yeah, Middle Eastern.
And North African.
So you get that a lot?
It's really helped me out quite a bit. As far as, like, when I'm, like, looking for different various acting roles, I'll just say Mediterranean, because it can really be that whole sort of diaspora, even Latin American as well.
Yeah.
It works. So
it's great for your acting and stuff.
Yeah, I can be a lot of things, which is cool. I've even played Pakistani once.
Wow.
Go figure.
Well, you look like, well, right now you're so tanned right now, you could pretty much play anything. We won't go further into that, but so where were you born?
I was born in Oakville, Ontario.
Oakville, Ontario.
Back in 1984. Yeah. So I'm 30.
30.
Yeah.
That's very young still.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know. I guess people have an idea in their head of what 30 is and how old you got to be when you're 30, but I certainly don't feel that way. I don't know. I'm probably as immature as ever, and but in a more refined way, in a more responsible way.
But that's the one great thing about life is that I'm old. I'm 47. I'm not afraid to say it, but I don't feel 47. In fact, I have to remind myself I'm not 19 anymore. Or some days I wake up with the pains and I'm like, yeah, I'm not 19 anymore. But,
yeah.
But you see me hang out at the staircase. I'm just like sometimes like a little kid. And
definitely. And I think you gotta, like, everybody who hangs out there has that in them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there in the first place. You know?
Yeah. So, what's your family? Siblings?
Oh, I got like 3 brothers, 3 sisters. Like one full sister, 2 half brothers, 2 half sisters, and a step brother. You know, parents got divorced, remarried other people, kept breeding. So, very prolific breeders.
Very close with your family, or just once in a while you see them?
Yeah.
Not judging you, just asking.
Not as close as I'd like. I mean, yes, close, but I don't see them all the time as much as I'd like. Because I'm the only one who lives in Hamilton. I got some siblings who live in Toronto. I obviously see them the most. And then I got some family up in Barrie, Woodbridge, Orangeville. So, it's hard to get around, especially, when my business doesn't take me there that regularly.
I like to ask people what they were like in high school, because obviously I didn't know you in high school.
High school was an interesting time in my life. I moved to Burlington halfway through, so I started grade 12 in high school, which was tough. It's always tough transferring schools. I had fun. I had friends. I was, I wasn't, not to say I was like super popular, but people knew who I was. But even, there were certain points that were rough for me as well, like, dealing with like being picked on and bullying and stuff like that, right? So it was a mixed bag, for sure, but overall, it was an important experience.
That's good. Now, did you go to college or anything?
I went to University of McMaster, yeah.
And what did you study there?
I studied history.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that just something you were really interested in, or did you have plans to use it?
Well, I guess I got to be honest with you. There was part of it was, well, what can I do? What do I qualify for? Because I had dropped calculus in high school, and that really fucked me for a lot of science-based programs.
Okay.
But I liked history and I enjoyed it quite a bit. And once I got into it, especially, I feel like I did 2 years at the university, took 3 years off to go to Afghanistan, do some traveling and stuff like that. Then when I came back, I met this one professor at McMaster who I did a bunch of courses with, Dr. Michael Egan. And I'm really fortunate I met him because he really planted some seeds in my head and really shaped my outlook in really sublime ways. So had I not taken history, I might not have met him. So.
Well, that's cool. So he's almost like a mentor or just a friend that inspires?
I've fallen out of touch with, but I would say, yeah, he's still a friend. I haven't spoken to him in a few years, but I'm very grateful to, kind of the way he put upon his students the imperative and the responsibility to ask questions. Don't just accept authority and, because somebody says something is the way it is. Ask questions. How do we know what we know? Just because I'm standing here at the front of the room and I have the power to pass or fail you, don't accept what I say as gospel either.
That's good.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best teachers are the ones that get you to think more.
Oh, absolutely.
For yourself, they can lead you to the way, but they want you to actually do the road work kind of thing.
One of my favorite, I guess, contemporary philosophers, if you want to call him as such, is Peter Joseph. And he's got this one line from one of his lectures where he's talking about, I'm less interested in what people think and how they arrived at that train of thought. Like, I'm more interested, in the train of thought. If you have an idea about something, you think something, that's great, but what's your process of getting there?
That's awesome.
And I think that's like that lens you can apply to the whole world.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were talking earlier about, a system of thought, a way of looking at things you can apply to everything.
You mentioned Afghanistan. Now, was this when you were with the military?
Yeah.
When did you join the military?
2003, May. I became recruiting in my high school, and that was it.
What made you do that? Like, were you just like, I want to be a soldier? Or?
Initially, I was working with this girl at Canadian Tire. She's like, "Hey, I just signed up. You should sign up too." And I'm like, "You're hot."
No way.
That was at least initially.
Are you telling me this? Okay.
But when I ended up actually deciding to follow through with it, I was reaching the end of high school. I was really lacking direction. Didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And the Army's great about giving you direction. So I went away, and I was dreading it, but I really didn't know what else to do with my life. But 2 days into basic training, I was loving it. It sucked in its way, but it was also amazing in its way too. Like, we were all suffering together, and just having fun.
Now, you actually went to Afghanistan. What was that like? I know we won't dwell into it too much, but how long were you there? And
I was there for 7 months, and it was a really interesting place to live. Pardon me, I had to spit out that ice cube.
No problem.
It's hard to talk with ice in your mouth.
Nice, thanks for trying, though.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's other things that make it more difficult to talk with in your mouth.
We may find out later.
We may.
Get comfortable, you know. Afghanistan.
Afghanistan.
Kind of got a nice segue.
Yeah, well,
smutty stuff.
we're just talking here.
Yes, absolutely.
I was really scared to go to Afghanistan, but I found when I got there, I wasn't scared anymore.
Really?
It became routine day to day, and actually, weirdly enough, in the last 2 weeks before I went to go over, I was almost looking forward to it because I was having problems with the girl I was dating at the time. I was having car problems, just lots of bullshit, and I knew that when I was in Afghanistan, I wouldn't have to worry about any of that for 7 months. I could just go there, do my thing, and as long as I didn't die, everything would be okay. And that's more or less what it was.
Well, I'm glad you didn't die.
Yeah, me too. I mean, death didn't scare me so much, because I figured if it happened, it would be quick, and that would be it. But as a young guy who, well, I guess I was really worried about getting, losing limbs or becoming mentally fucked up and stuff like that, or being like on the Colossi bag for the rest of my life. And that was stuff that really gave me pause to really have like long, sleepless nights worrying and stuff, right?
Well, I can verify he hasn't lost any limbs. I've checked him out quite a few times, and I think he's pretty normal.
Yeah, well, you know what?
You seem more sane than most of the people I know, and they never went to Afghanistan.
Well, I guess it depends what your measure of sane is.
Mine is very loose. Mine is very loose. I tend to hang with the more insane people because I get along with them better.
I think the most sane people are the ones that have a certain threshold of maladjustment. I think to be too well adjusted to the world we live in today, I think is a measure of insanity.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's a
do you do poetry? Because
that's a loose paraphrase of Krishnamurti.
Okay, you're taking it from somebody, but I like it. I like it. Now, before we move on from Afghanistan, you once touched me because I remember it was around Remembrance Day.
Yes.
And you wrote a beautiful article on Facebook about how, you found it a weird time because everybody just because you put on a uniform makes you an automatic hero. And you kind of wrote, I'm trying to remember exactly what you said, but it was kind of like, you kind of have troubles with that, like grouping everybody as a hero just because you felt you were doing your job. Mm-hmm. And then when you came home, you felt people, treated you different, and you actually enjoyed the people that would be joking with you and being, treating you like the same old Andre, but you realized some people were just like, is he stable? Is he crazy? Is that right, or am I just totally butchered what you said?
I remember the post you're talking about. I don't remember exactly the content of it.
But what are your thoughts on the hero aspect of it? Like, if I sat here and said, I am so glad you fought for our country, like, does that make you feel odd, or?
I guess a little bit. Not, what I say to people, or what I try and say to people is I appreciate the sentiments, if not the application, right? I guess I get where people are coming from, and on some level they feel like they are grateful. And gratitude is one of those things where I never want to, rebuke gratitude. I think gratitude and appreciation is a great thing, even if it is misguided, typically, right? So I would never rebuke somebody for saying, don't thank me. A lot of guys get weird about that. I don't necessarily get weird about it, but I guess when I try to talk to people about it, I try to demystify it. And I think as somebody who is mentally and physically didn't bear the brunt of, injury while I was overseas or in the military, I think I'm very well positioned. And as somebody who's like halfway eloquent as well, I'm very well situated to speak openly about these things and, demystify it. Because what'll happen is, any given guy who's been in Afghanistan, any veteran, he might have the same mentality, like, I don't necessarily like when people give me this hero worship stuff, but, he's not necessarily eloquent enough or articulate enough to express why. So it sounds like he said, "Oh, don't thank me." It sounds like he's being surly and a douchebag. I try and say things in a way where I express the train of thought, why, and try and demystify this hero worship that people suffer from, because it's very unrealistic.
Yeah. Now, you eventually, we met through improv. What was
Yes.
it? What's a nice boy like you going into improv? Like, what made you go to that?
Well, that was like late in 2012, which was a fucking very difficult year for me. That was the year I got out of the military. I had, yeah, it was, I guess, really the seeds that had been planted in my head were starting to really take root and grow, and my values had really changed, and it was especially stressful because January 2012, right at the beginning of the year, I got back from a backpacking trip I went on, and I came back to, you know, my job in the military, which I was in the Army, and my transfer to the Air Force, which I'd been waiting on for 2 years, was starting to come to fruition. And I knew I didn't want to spend 9 years out in Alberta. But I figured I told so many people I was going to do it, I had to do it. Right? I had that young boy mentality, like, you know, your word is everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I didn't want to disappoint people in my life, like my parents, family, and stuff like that. Because, you know, we know how it is a family. They stake a lot of their pride on you. Like, my dad would be bragging to his friends about, oh, my son's going to be in the Air Force and all this. But I knew it wasn't what I wanted. So it was causing me a lot of stress. And my ex, Chelsea, to her eternal credit, was, you know, so supportive of me and really helped me through a really dark time in my life. And that was where I was really angry. A lot of arguing on Facebook, a lot, and just stupid discussions. Like, because I was becoming awake to some of the problems in the world, but I was still participating in them in a very wholesale way, which was, so I felt very much like a hypocrite, you know? And it was very stressful for me. When I finally decided to make the decision to get out of the military altogether, that was like a relief. I kept working my job, and then a few months later I sort of found improv at the Staircase, which really opened my eyes to these artistic inclinations I had, because I knew I wanted to act one day. But when I started doing improv, I was like, you know what, I have an aptitude for this, and yeah, it was a beautiful thing.
And you met some awesome people.
I certainly did.
Including me.
Including you?
I'm just sorry, I'm not trying to put that
Well,
in
if
there.
you hadn't said it, I would have said it.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. I tend to go for the compliment first in case I don't get it. But no, I'm just kidding. But no, I know you still stay close to a lot of those people that...
well, I live with one.
Yeah, there you go. Now, we're going to talk a whole segment on movies, but you finally did get into acting.
Yeah, but I joke that the Staircase was the beginning of the end for me, because I started there in September 2012, and in February 2013 I quit my shitty civilian job I was working at. I wasn't happy there. And then a few months later I started acting, professionally, and yeah, so Staircase really precipitated that. It was definitely one of the big steps along the way.
Well, we are going to talk about that. We're going to do a whole segment, because you've been really busy the last little, year or two, I think?
Well, it's been just over 2 years now, and yeah, it's been amazing. It's been an amazing couple of years, and I've had a lot of success due, in part, to where I'm at in life. I apply myself in a more absolute way to things I want, but I've got some really good advice right from the get-go, and I've just moved in ways, trusted my gut, that have put me in the path of other people like-minded.
Very cool. Now, one thing I do want to touch before the segment's done, you've just started stand-up comedy.
Back in December, actually.
What got you to do that? I'm not saying you're not a funny guy or anything. I haven't seen your stand-up. I look forward to it, but I was actually surprised when I saw that. I thought, all the things I'd see you do, like lion tamer, hip-hop dancer, when I saw stand-up comedy, it surprised me. I'm not saying you couldn't do it, though.
No, you know, it's something I'd wanted to try, because to me, it's a very pure form of entertainment. It's just you, a mic, and an audience, you know. Whereas acting, you need lights, directors, cameras, all these things, right? Whereas you, it's just, you don't even need instruments. It's just you talking to a crowd.
Yeah, if you have a loud enough voice, you don't even need the microphone.
There's something very beautiful about that. So that purity of it, I think, is a beautiful thing. Now, when the industry tends to slow down in the winter, which it did, I was like, you know what? I'm not that busy. I'm going to start trying this to keep myself busy. So that was part of it. In my first set, oh man, I was making Django Messi jokes. Fucking bombed hard. But you know what? That was good though, because I knew I wanted to bomb hard. I didn't want to just go in there and be like, oh, I did it. I did it. People laughed. I can retire undefeated. I knew I wanted to get good at it.
So, do you consider yourself a controversial stand-up, or you're?
Well,
you go out with just you just come out Bill Cosby or something like that.
I haven't made any Cosby jokes yet.
I've
made.
But he's working on them.
What I realized is when I started, one of my favorite jokes, that was one of my first successful jokes that really consistently got laughs, was an Afghanistan joke, which dealt with people dying. So, but I realized that dark subject matter, I started to like do more of it. First of all, fleshing out a whole routine centered around Afghanistan and wacky happenings there, and then another one. Then I started making other jokes that touched on subject matter like statutory rape, child pornography, and all these kind of things, which people are like, "Whoa, that's a very sobering thing to talk about."
Yes, but you're gonna win or lose the crowd immediately.
Yeah,
you'll know. Yeah,
but the thing is, I mean, you've alluded to it already. Like, I'm aware of how I look. I'm aware I'm like a halfway good-looking dude, fit, and I have a sunny disposition too. So when I'm talking about that stuff in my own way, it's not like I can talk about things that other guys can't. Just like certain comics can make jokes that I can't.
What I like about you is you have a cockiness that doesn't come off as like a threatening douchebag. You're like you just got this confidence that if somebody else was saying it like real slimy, I might be like, what the hell? But when you're like, yeah, what's next, Andre? What do you want to say next?
I'm glad it comes across that way.
Well, that's how I see it, and I think that's how other people see it.
You know Clifford Myers.
Yes, absolutely.
Hamilton fixture as far as comedy goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's the first guy who put me on. And one of my first few sets I did, he's telling me, you know what, I can go on stage and make fun of people because I'm a big fat guy, it's funny. But if you do it, you just come off like a jerk. And I'm like, I didn't want to buy into that because I'm like, man, no, fuck that, I can say whatever I want. But the truth of what he was saying is that, don't try and, whatever you are, whatever you bring to the table, find the style that works for you and how you look and the way you want to, like, a lot of guys will put on button-up shirts, and that's cool, because it's a more neutral sort of look, and they're not. But me, I kind of dress on stage. I try to be a reflection of how I actually dress in life, and I try and cater my comedy style around that. And I don't know, I'm not to say it's unique or whatever, but it's the only thing that feels right to me.
I suggest that you try starting a new thing.
Okay.
With topless stand-up comedy.
Topless.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
The vest with no shirt underneath, just like a little sneak peek with no nips.
That would be okay too.
We'll see.
Well, I'll talk to you about that during the break we have coming up, and we'll be back with more Andre and in just a few minutes. And we are back, and I'm here with my co-host, Andre, and having a good time so far?
Yeah, I'm having a great time.
I was thinking about it today. Everybody in life looks for having a friend that's that cool guy in their life. And, he's got looks, he's got talent, he's always doing fun things. And I know there's listeners out there thinking, everybody has those. Do you realize that you are that guy in many people's lives?
This is going to sound incredibly egotistical.
Good. That makes good radio.
But yes, on some level, I realized it early on with my younger brother when he was still in high school. And he was like, wanted to do certain things I had done, like join the army and stuff like that. And I would never advise somebody to go the path I went, but I could see the appeal of it, And especially, like, I see it all the time with, kids in the park. It happens at least a few times every summer where, it happened the other day. I was walking in the store and some kid grabbed me and pulled me over to show me the toy he wanted. And I convinced his mom to buy it for him, right?
Really?
Or kids, will kind of look at me and then kind of look away and like, their mom will be like, oh, he thinks you're cool. And I'm like, fucking right. I know how I look. She was premeditated. Happened by accident.
Well, I love that you own that when I say you were that guy. Because, like, I look at other people's Facebook and even my own and they'll put, like, here's my dinner.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it easy tonight. And sometimes I've never taken pictures of my dinner, but I've done those. Like, I'm just going to stay inside. I look at yours and you're dressed as a soldier, like playing one in a movie. Then you're a gangster. You're got a skateboard talking about how you're going to go, across the, I keep in touch with you. Stuff.
You know what it is? Honestly, I just do the things that I think are cool. And,
you should see the gorgeous smile I have. I wish you could see it. It's like, I'm just imagining all the hot stuff you've done in your time.
Hot stuff? Sure. I've probably done a few hot things. But I guess
a few.
I don't know. You know what? A lot of the way I compose myself, put myself outwardly is very utilitarian. I don't wear impractical shit. I dress in a way like I dress like a a Rob Liefeld superhero, like lots of pouches, cargo pockets, you know, very like that. Like I don't know what it is. Like I'm constantly on the move on the road, so I don't have time for frivolous shit. You know?
You have pockets.
When I'm in the city and my buddies want to hang out, I'm like, I don't got club clothes with me. I don't even got jeans with me. I got like pants that are utilitarian that probably won't let me get into that bar, right? But at the same time too, I may not, you know, I might not meet dress code, but at the same time too, little kids think I look cool. So
that's important.
That's
right?
that's more important, is because I know if I was a little kid, I'd look up to me like, damn, I want to be like that guy someday. And that's to me like one of the only. You get very few victories in life, and that's one of them. Is not becoming lame as you get older.
So you wanted to get into acting, and you finally did. You've been doing a lot of short films. You've done some indie stuff, I believe.
Yeah.
How did
I've done?
this
I think
happen?
the proper term is a metric shitload of indie films.
Yeah.
It's been a lot, but it's been amazing. I've met a lot of cool people. It's been about 2 years now. I met, a few months after I started at Staircase, like I had said. I quit my job February 2013. And so for a couple months I just drifted. I did, actually, weirdly enough, I did this meditation retreat right after I quit, which was really cool. Something I needed to get my shit together.
Everything you say is cool. I quit my job, I went to meditation, camp. Like, I feel like I'm reading a novel here of like, I'm gonna do just that. And I know I won't because I'm not that motivated. But no, sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm just sitting there, I feel like it's awesome. Well, okay, we were at meditation camp.
Yeah, so I did that, and I was working, when I got back from that, like, that kind of really helped me come to terms with some things in my life that, things I'd broken myself off from that I wasn't happy with, but I still needed to, I guess, do some mending and healing. So that was cool. And then a few months later, May 2013, our mutual friend Harrison Wheeler, he had his book Jester's Incognito, was at Hamilton Articon, or probably Burlington Articon, and me and Matt Sykes went out there, and we sat in on this panel for Fangoria magazine, and they had like a bunch of different people in the Toronto film community, Kelly Michael Stewart, Torrin Lang, who's a young, very prolific director, Ryan Andrews was there, and I was talking to these guys, Robert Nolan, who's a very prolific Canadian actor, and I was talking to these guys, they're very supportive, and I always wanted to act, but I thought I'd have to move to Los Angeles, so it would be very daunting. But when I realized that there was this thriving community in Toronto, I was like, I already quit my job, fuck it, I'm going to do it, right? So that was May 5th, 2013, I've been going like every day since. And Robert Nolan, who I'd mentioned, he was great about giving me some good advice from the get-go, like, have like 5 or 6 monologues ready to go, be prepared for this, like check these sites every day, do the work every day and stuff like that. And, he probably gives good advice to a lot of aspiring actors and, maybe a handful here and there take it. But I was one of those guys who took it and actually ran with it,
Now, do you have an agent or anything, or you just do this free?
I have a background agent. I've never really sought out a principal agent because, well, I guess part of my... I look for stuff myself. Now, that said, certain audition rooms I don't have access to as a self-represented actor. An agent, especially a well-connected agent, would get me into auditions that I don't have access to right now. And I accept that. And I'm not saying an agent is never going to happen for me, but I just look at the trends, and I look at the way it's going, and everything is so much more democratized now. Like, you can make a go as an actor, self-represented, if you're willing to forego some of the bigger auditions. And so the internet is really a great equalizer. It's leveled the playing field. I have, on many levels, direct access right to casting directors.
Yeah, absolutely. Which that wasn't like that, decades ago.
I've been scouted once by an agent. We ultimately opted not to make a go of it.
Oh, you were actually
Yes.
What's the word? You were like, somebody wanted to work with you?
And to her credit, maybe not every agent would come out and, reach out to a young actor. So, to her eternal credit, for actually making that step and reaching out to me. But, it didn't quite work out.
Yeah, well, things do like that, but flattering that somebody was interested in you like that.
For sure. And it was very validating, too, because right from the get-go, my thing is, I didn't like the idea of kicking down somebody's door and saying, please represent me. Yeah. I don't like to supplicate myself like that, right? if you want to do business with me, we can do it. And there's a young, prideful man in me still who sometimes is a little too outspoken, and I have to work on that. I know that because maybe I come off as arrogant sometimes and dismissive when I don't mean to be, and it comes from a place of hurt or my own insecurities. And I think I might have been a little too, in my dealings with her, a little too accusatory as far as, not accusatory, but the way I might have put questions to her, she might have felt as if I was, maybe not a, maybe just a bit of a dick. And so I got to work on that.
Right. You think that's what it is? I'm picturing like this sultry woman coming to you, like, older woman, I'd like to represent you, Andre. One of those old movies,
Nothing so dramatic as that.
No,
it was
crossing her legs during your... It was an email. It's hard to cross your legs in email.
She might have had her legs spread wide open while she sent it. But she seemed
well, now I'm picturing something totally different.
She seemed like a very proper woman, though, so I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. So I have a vivid imagination. When you tell me, like, there's some agents looking at you, I'm just picturing, I need to have this man in my agenda.
No, she's a cool chick, though, and maybe our paths will cross again. That's it.
Very cool. Yeah. So what kind of projects would you want to talk about that you've been? Like, I've seen you... You were even like kind of a Nosferatu in a...
Yeah,
well, I've seen you in so many different things. I'm like, what am I going to see next?
Actually, as it turns out now, at this point, I've played 2 different bald vampires takeoffs on Nosferatu. The first one, a character created called Nigel Oscar Ferratu III of the Transylvania Ferratus.
Certainly, they're not just any Nosferatu.
Yeah. He was a character who was a horror host, and he was like, I guess, sidekick, co-host of Johnny Goulash, who's a character, zombie, created by my buddy John Miliori, who I've done a lot of work with here at Hamilton, and his production company, Survival Zombie Films. So we would do, we did a bunch of review shows and parody shows. Count Dracula's Review Showcase, Amityville Spookies, and then John's series that he started called Partially Devoured Films, where he would take old public domain horror films, edit them down to like 17 minutes, and we'd lay over like commentary, making fun of the films, right? Yeah. So I would do it, and it was like, put on this pretentious British accent, like I was this blue-blooded aristocrat, and we really got a lot of mileage out of the characters. And our last film we just finished, called The Friday Night Death Slot, I made one quick cameo as that character, and I think for now, we're taking a bit of a hiatus from the characters because we've done them to death. But what's kind of a cool capstone is, as those characters, me and him co-hosted the 2014 Toronto Zombie Walk. So
Very cool.
At Nathan Phillips Square. Yeah, it was really cool. I had the opportunity to do that. I mean, they asked him because he's been very involved, not only in the horror community, but the zombie subgenre as well. So he was a shoo-in for the choice. And then we've been working together a lot, so he asked me, which was very flattering and validating, and I was happy to do it.
Any other projects that you really enjoyed doing that you want to throw our way?
Well, back in May, I was...
First of all, before you get to that, is there any way we can see those? Are they on...
Yeah, I think most
review shows?
Partially Devoured movies has been switched over, I think, switched over from YouTube to Vimeo. But yeah, Survival Zombie Films, just look up Vimeo and Partially Devoured movies. It'll all be up there. Friday Night Death Slot is our film we just finished, and it's being shot at the festival still. We had a soft screening in Hamilton here. It was really received well, and it was kind of both of our first foray into movie making, like a full-length, all-original feature of our own. So it was a lot of fun to make, and it was a bit of a long process, because right from the get-go, when we started making it in January, February 2014, we knew that to make a feature film, we wanted to start out doing a bunch of vignettes tied together, because that way we could film, 1 weekend here, 1 weekend there. Whereas if you're doing a full-length feature, that's like one story, you need people to have a consistent look for a long time, or have them for 14, 20 days straight. And because it was an unpaid project, it was a basically no budget project, we weren't looking to do that. So we shot it when we could, and John is like a whiz in editing, puts a lot of work in. Like he'll do like a full 40-hour work week on his computer just editing.
Awesome.
So it looks.
You really need that kind of commitment.
Oh yeah, I don't have when we shoot something, I don't have any doubt about how it will look.
Yeah.
It always looks top notch, and it does. It looks that. It's funny. It's fun. It's light. But there's some segments. I don't know if you're familiar with the film Heavy Metal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. In some
Love that movie.
Some of the segments are funnier, some are more serious, and they're tied together by an overarching narrative. But in the vein of like Kentucky Fried Movie or Amazon Women from the Moon, you also get your parody trailers and commercials.
Nice.
So it's a bit, there's a little bit for everybody.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So other projects you wanted to promote that you've done that you enjoyed working on?
Yeah, I had this amazing experience back in May. We were out in Kincardine, Ontario for 3 weeks shooting a film called Red Spring. And I was playing the main antagonist of the film, the vampire leader. And the premise is basically vampires have risen up and they basically, to propagate and take over and, really sway the balance power in their favor, they've had to turn a lot of people into vampires, so of necessity, their food supplies running short. So the film chronicles a group of survivors being doggedly pursued by me. And again, it was, bald vampire, really menacing. And it was cool because a lot of my own, day-to-day fashion choices, very military inspired, were taken into account for, what happened was when I originally shot the trailer with them last summer, I was coming from a rehearsal where I was for like this military shows, and so I already had like military gear on, like yeah, wear that for the trailer. Then when it came time to actually cast the role, they're like, we like that. So it snowballed into me playing this really paramilitary sort of vampire leader, which a vampire with a Kalashnikov, it's a pretty menacing thing.
Do you get worried that you keep getting typecast as vampires?
I kind of like it and hope that when people need vampires. Sorry, I thought you were saying something else, but no.
So, what did you think I said?
You know what because lately I've been getting a lot of military roles and stuff lately. So I heard that even though you said vampires, so no. If I got more vampire roles, that's cool. But I was hearing military.
Okay.
And on that note as well, if people think of me when they need a fit military dude, then God bless, I'm down to do it.
Yeah. Okay, so you've done military, you've done vampires. Have you ever got cast in something where you played something that you thought something a little different?
Yeah, actually, my buddy Mark Datsman, he's at a production company called Mad Resilience Films. The first project I worked on with him was called Venky Daryl Venky, which hasn't been released yet, but it was like a short little snippet, like a short film about dating in the corporate culture. Now, fuck do I know about the corporate world, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a suit and tie dude.
Did you get to wear a suit and tie in this?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to see you in that.
Well, not a full jacket, but a vest and a tie and stuff like that. And I applied for it because the story itself had a lot of comedic themes and material to work with. And I thought, I even said it in my application letter. I'm like, you know what? This world is a bit foreign to me, but at the same time, too, the comedy, I think, is transcendent.
Yeah.
So I auditioned for him. I couldn't make the initial audition, so I sent a video submission, but he had the recommendation of his producer, who I knew from previously, and that was enough to get me a callback, which I went to, and I ended up getting the role. And so it was a bit of a departure for me in the sort of character I play, but it ended up being a lot of fun, and it led to lots of collaboration subsequently, so it was great.
Yeah. Well, you do have that look. Like, you look great in a suit, you look good as a vampire, you look good in the military. Like, it's good to have, like, a look that not everybody has, You know
what? And maybe this, to any struggling actor, of which I guess I do count myself as well, I think it's pretty presumptuous to say. I realize that there are certain things working in my favor. I get that my look has helped me at certain times, but it's also played me out of position at certain times as well.
Yeah, I could imagine it probably has both. We actually have a segment dedicated to that.
Yeah?
Yeah, we're just going to talk about your body and stuff.
Oh, awesome. I know it well.
I'm hoping to know a lot more, but no, I'm just kidding. We won't get that detailed. Maybe during the
we can
breaks or
We
something.
can get to the bottom of shit?
Yeah, the bottom of shit.
Yeah. But, guys, what was the question?
I honestly can't remember. I was thinking of your bottom. No, bottom of shit, I mean. What's the game plan for you? Do you hope to go into, like, big features, or do you happy to stay in the independent scene? Like,
you know what? As far as goals,
yeah,
I have 3 goals that I've had from day one.
Oh.
Which are, 1, first and foremost, make excellent films. 2, cultivate memorable characters. And 3, challenge our notions of duality, particularly trying to demystify the good and evil fallacy. And those are goals that are like, oh, that's my 5-year plan, 10-year plan. No, those are things I pursue every day. And if I pursue these things on an everyday basis, pursue them righteously, then whatever success I get is a success that will make me happy,
How do you think you're succeeding on those goals so far?
Well, I have lapses. I look back at earlier work especially, and I'm like, I don't like what I did there, or, not every time am I firing on all cylinders. Like, I'm not going to say that everything I've done is, the best thing ever. But on the times where I have hit those 3 marks, I'm really happy with the work, and I can watch it and be proud of it, right? Like any goals, you have lapses sometimes, right?
Are you your own worst critic? Like, some people just beat themselves up.
I'm gentle with
people.
myself. I'm gentle with myself, but I don't bullshit myself either. If I could have done better, or if I wasn't present in the moment, and if I didn't prepare myself adequately, I say, well, you know what? You're better than that, but there's always next time. There's always the next thing, right? And I'm starting to realize what roles I do better in now. There's certain roles that I want to get more of that I just, for whatever reason, I've only had a few opportunities to play them, and I think I can really excel at them. There's other roles I get a lot more than others, which I can do them and they're fun, and I'm certainly not going to complain about getting roles. So,
if I could magically give you the role of your role of your dreams, what would that be? What kind of character would you want to play, or what kind of movie, or... I'm putting you on the spot here, Charlie.
I want to play an overlord from outer space who stands on the cliff and plays an electric guitar to summon monsters out of a lake.
I didn't put you on the spot. You've been thinking about this.
That might be...
Is this a script
guys,
you're writing in your head?
Keep an eye out for Space Monsters Must Die, survival zombie films, coming out 2016. But...
It's going to be a long title, especially playing for monsters coming out of the side of the cliff. Is that going to be the whole title?
Space Monsters Must Die, that's what's going to be. Sorry, I had a self-plug there, but I do tend to like roles that are very cerebral, intense, off-putting, people who are dark characters. I don't mind going... I wouldn't mind playing, somebody who was had chained with sex offender or something like that. Some place that can really scare people, right? Because and something that was very dynamic physically, kind of like calm exterior, but carrying the threat of violence and malice, but also showing again
a human side to it.
Well, at least the real motivations, because these people, if you can show the most despicable evil character, but show that they're a culmination of all these influences and circumstances and stuff like that. And that's not to excuse or forgive anybody or condemn anybody. It's just everything happens for a reason. If we understand the causality of the behavior, that's the only way we can stop and hope to prevent the behavior. And that's the kind of work I want to make. And you can do that by showing a causality, which leads to somebody being the most despicable character that there is.
All right, I look forward to seeing you do that.
Oh, thank you. I look forward to getting the opportunity, or making it for myself.
Well, that would be good, too, if you get a chance to do that as well.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you're lining yourself with talented people. It could go that way one day.
Yeah, definitely. I've been very fortunate to attract a lot of people who are, even if their goals aren't obviously their goals, they're not my goals and whatever, but there's a lot of overlap and common ground that we can work towards and, do mutually fulfilling projects.
All right. Our segment is up. These go by fast, do they not?
They do.
We will talk about you. We'll get to the bottom of your shit, as we've talked about on our next segment, whatever that means. We will find out next. And we are back. I'm here spending some time with Andre. Thank you again for coming on the show. I really do appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
And you're having fun, so...
Yeah, it's good times.
That's good, because you're always saying, hey, I do cool things, so I hope my podcast is one of those things you can say. I did a podcast.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, this will probably get you lots of attention. My 17 loyal fans will certainly... You'll probably get me at least a couple more.
Right on.
Yeah, I think so.
17 fans. That's 17 people that otherwise would not know who I am.
There you go. Well, a couple of them probably know you already. They're seeing the real you now.
Yeah, this is me raw and uncut.
Now, I felt, when I talked about ideas for segments, I wanted to talk about your physical side, but I felt nervous asking you about that, because I didn't know, I didn't want you to think I was just some old perv, just let's talk about your body.
I would never think that you're an old perv. Whatever are you talking about?
See, people who've listened to my podcast know I flirt a lot, so I'm trying to be more professional, but then it goes out the window by usually segment 3. But you are very in shape. Have you always taken care of your body? What are you questioning it for? You got a look on your face, am I? I could be better.
Yeah, but there's certain thing. I do very simple workouts. and I don't spend a lot of time working out. I do a little bit every day. I try to, at least. But there's certain areas of my body I let slide. For example, like I'm not always as diligent about the things you can't see, like squats and stuff like that, which I'm trying to incorporate more and more and do more because it's important to have strong legs. But a lot of it is I like to be fit, but a lot of it is too calculated because I know that if you want to be an action hero, you got to look the part, be the part, right?
Were you always like this in school, like physically active?
No, I was a really heavy set kid growing up.
Really?
Yeah. Once I was about like teenager, so I started to like kind of slim out a bit. But I didn't really get in my estimation, I didn't really get what I would call fit until about 2011, where slowly kind of realized what things were good for me to eat, what things were not so good for me to eat. Started going to the gym less and doing other forms of exercise, right?
Well, that's what I like about you. You seem like you do other physical stuff.
I don't I don't have a gym membership. I work out around the house, like push-ups, planks, sit-ups, or push-ups, planks, squats, chin-ups, jumping rope I do a lot of lately.
You're actually the first person I ever saw doing planks.
Really?
Yes. I've actually done planks because of you. It did not look exactly the same. We couldn't put the pictures together and it wouldn't look like a before and after. But I have planked because of you.
Yeah? Well, I'm glad I could inspire.
I looked it up after and I'm like, this is a thing.
There you go. This is a thing.
As you can see, it's working great on my...
You know what, man? It is what it is,
I feel kind of weird, I'm talking to you about physical fitness. And
yeah.
If this was like a show about physical fitness, but I'm looking at you and you're like, as you said, you have your imperfections that you find. I can't see any, if you want to show me any, I'll look, but... but I feel like I'm talking about...
I'll have a look.
But I feel... I'm not a doctor. How do you know I'm not? No, but what I'm saying is that you're in good shape, and I feel like I'm talking to you about, so you're into this fitness. I feel like I should be eating a bag of chips and Slurpee while I'm saying this, because I'm not in shape, but I'm asking you. But this is for listeners out there, it is important.
I mentioned earlier we were talking about the way I dress,
yes.
And it's all kind of based on a principle of utilitarianism.
Yeah.
I do what's useful. Well, physically, it's the same way, because I've fallen when I weighed 196 pounds, and I've fallen at 160 pounds, which is kind of where I'm at now. And it hurts a lot less, and it's less debilitating when you're 160 pounds. So for me to be leaner and lighter, I can absorb injury better. I'm more useful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't... Carrying that extra weight is almost a liability. So because I do lead an active lifestyle. Mm-hmm. So a big part of it is wanting to give myself as much longevity and less wear and tear on my body.
Excellent.
And that's what it is. And then if everything else, all the aesthetic stuff, helps me in my career, then great. But the principle is be fit to be useful.
Now, you made a comment earlier, and that's kind of one thing I want to talk about, is you said, so you were aware that your physical attributes are helpful, but they can be a hindrance at times. Have you ever had that?
Yeah, I remember the first time I did improv wearing like a wife beater, like a undershirt. Every scene I was in kind of became about, the way I looked and my appearance and like my biceps and stuff like that. And so I stopped doing that.
Were they scenes I was in?
I don't remember. I'm not going to say, I remember one scene in particular, I'm not going to say who I was in with it.
No.
Doesn't matter.
It wasn't me. I can tell you that because I tried to.
I don't remember if you were there that night, but
yeah.
Whatever. For me, I was like, you know what? I'm going to wear a t-shirt when I go to improv, like a full t-shirt. Just because, like, I don't
and that's when improv became less fun for me as a teacher.
The day the music died.
You were the guy who was wearing a muscle shirt for me.
Yeah, and you know what? Fair enough. Like, I don't know.
Oh my God! I just made you a sex object. I'm talking to you about how, like, you're, and I just sexified you right there.
Is
that a word?
Did you do it or did I do it?
Well, I just said, and that was when improv died, when you wore, put on a full shirt, saying that you wouldn't look good in a full shirt. You look good in a burlap sack, I'm trying to say.
Oh, well, I appreciate it.
But do you have, like, do you ever have a situation where people come in and think you're just going to be dumb? Like, I know you're not, but do people just assume you're not going to have a brain in your head? Have you ever had that?
I think there's a lot of, and I'm going to be a little vulgar here, and I'm going to say some real shit.
Go for it.
There's some fucking social justice twats who really irk me. And they come at me saying you shouldn't say that, and you shouldn't say this, or that's not appropriate. And when these people come at me, they don't expect the fact that I can defend what I'm saying on multiple levels. That I got a unifying principle in the system behind what the fuck I say, and it's not a hodgepodge and a mishmash of all these different things that I've been told I should be offended by. So, I don't like being told, especially by people who don't know what the fuck they're actually talking about, I don't like being told what I can and cannot say. Now, that said, I'm not immune to fear, and the things that I abstain from saying, there's two reasons why I abstain from saying things. One, because if it's not funny and it's just hurtful, I don't like hurting people. I really don't. But if there's a laugh to be involved, if there's laughs to be had, I'll say it. The other thing is fear. I'm not immune to it. I have censored myself out of fear of other people's opinions, and I don't like that idea, and I try and challenge that all the time in a way where I'm not just deliberately trying to offend people. So it's a tough balance, and it's a fine line, and I kind of drift back and forth along it. And sometimes I say stupid things, put my foot in my mouth. Other times I miss golden opportunities to say something that would have been funny.
Well, again, I like you because you're really, can't even think of the word. You're very open, you're honest, you say your things, but I love that sometimes you post stuff on Facebook, and you even say in it, I don't think I'm going to make many fans with this, but this is how I'm feeling. And I like that you can do that. But
for the record, I don't think I've ever prefaced it by worrying about fans.
Sorry, I don't mean fans, I meant like people, followers, friends.
Even that, I don't think I've ever, maybe I have, I don't remember. Pandering's not the right word, but if I'm saying something that's controversial, unless I'm saying it for the purpose of a laugh, I do try and manage people's expectations of what they're trying to read, you know? Because I think that if I really want to make a point, controversial even if it is, I don't do anybody any good by coming off as like snarky or know-it-all. I gotta reach people by engaging with my audience, right? Like, I've alienated recently a buddy of mine who's a police officer because I posted some things that were just not even like anti-cop in any absolute sense of the word, not that, but asking certain questions, but he takes it as hatred, you know, and I don't like that, and I found myself getting into like a bit of a bickering thing with him where I said something snarky back to him, right, which I lamented, but I wasn't going to delete it because, you know, I said it, it was never happening. So,
do you regret saying it, or you said it and
yes and no.
deal with it?
You know what? I can regret it for a few seconds, and then afterwards I'm like, you know what? It's one of those experiences that'll make me smarter for next time, hopefully. So,
you
know, if you take the broad view of things and the enlightened view of things, we make very few mistakes. We if any, you know, we do what we need to do in order to learn the lessons we need to learn.
Absolutely. Now, do you say stuff sometimes because you know it'll rattle cages, or do you just this is what I want to say? Because sometimes I read and I just feel like, wow, he's like I believe they're real and genuine, but it's like I feel like I don't know if you're trying to be funny or sarcastic or shake the cage. So I always say shake the cage.
No worries. I like to show different nuances. Every issue is always. This is a great quotation that I heard Russell Brand quote, and I don't know who the actual original source is, but it's like, tyranny is the removal of nuance, where it's either you're this or you're that, left or right, black or white, and we tend to look at the world very dualistically, and I can't stand that. Remember I said I have 3 goals I pursue every day. One of them is trying to, demystify this notion of duality we live in, or false dichotomies. And so media issues are presented to us as very, well, are you pro-vax or anti-vax? Are you pro-this or pro-that? And the vaccination one's a great issue, for example. Like, I'm not pro-vax or anti-vax. But I realize that when there are market forces at play behind pharmaceutical companies and the medical establishment, there might be some, back behind closed doors fuckery, right? That said, I don't think there's any kind of grand conspiracy. It's actually a very common and trite conspiracy where it's like people do things that are profitable to them, and because we live in a competitive socioeconomic system, what's profitable for you might be, and often is, a detriment to me, right? Yeah. And that's not saying they're putting, mercury in or this or that to try and, depopulate the world. Like, all that tinfoil hat shit, I think that detracts from the real arguments and the real concerns that are legitimately founded.
Mm-hmm.
You see the same thing with fluoride. People talk about, it's a plan to, make the population docile. Or is it just some company who has, sodium fluoride as a byproduct of industrial waste that they're looking to turn a profit by selling to municipalities, so they lobby the politicians to buy it from them, and bam, they made a profit off what would otherwise be unprofitable. It's not a grand conspiracy. It's a very common, boring, mundane, trite, and commonly occurring conspiracy. And that's all it is. And conspiracy, I don't even like the word. It's competitive deselection. It's a purely economic thing. That's all it is.
No, it's true, and you're right. We tend to look for everything being black and white.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are trying to put it in that way because it's easier to, but you can't. You can't put anything into that because there's just so many elements of other colors and gray and
there's many ways to view the world, many lenses in which you can view the world, and that's what it is. You know, I see a lot of these atheists, like militant atheists, who probably just recently gave up religion, and so they went from all the way from one extreme to all the way to the other extreme. And I understand. I did it too. That's part of the process. I was a very militant atheist for a while. What we got to understand is you don't demonize people for how they look at the world. That's their level of, that's the operating system that they're working with, to use a computer metaphor, right? It might not be the most advanced one, but it's how they're processing it and learning things. Like, it's just one lens in which to view the world. So don't, and I'm not trying to dismiss or you know, play down religious atrocities or whatever, but all, you know, any ideology, whether secular or religious kind of atrocities, but at heart what they are is ways in which to process information and view the world, right? And so I'm not going to go to a kid who doesn't have my level of knowledge and experience and call him an idiot for the way he views the world, right? He's doing it at his speed.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And for everybody out there, if you can use the word backdoor fuckery at least once, I think you used that term, and I really like it.
Fuckery.
Backdoor fuckery. I think that should be our term for this week.
I think you should change the name of the podcast
to backdoor fuckery. Good Lord, what would you know how many hits I would get because they think it would be all about anal?
Oh, I hadn't even made that connection.
Yeah, I get that a lot. But
I made that connection.
I know you did. See, he just went from a serious face to that smile I mentioned at the beginning.
Acting.
Innocent. You're acting. Now, you recently said are you really going to do the skateboard thing?
Oh, yeah.
Explain what this is, because this looks like a modern-day spiritual quest in my...
I guess there are elements of that, too.
That's like, how I read it.
There's like 5 different yearnings, longings, whatever you want to call them, aspirations, kind of all coming together at once into either a beautiful journey or a fucking train wreck, whatever it's going to be. Not sure, but I guess I've always been an avid traveler. Well, not always, but since I joined the military back in 2003, I've done a lot of backpacking excursions, multi-month things, circled the world, went to Australia, went to the Outback. Now, since I started acting, it's made it difficult because to be an actor, you got to be established in one place. Right? You can't be a touring actor unless you're part of a troupe. That said, as a stand-up comic, you can be a touring actor. You can be a touring comic, right? So that was my in. That's how I justified it from an entertainment perspective. It's like, okay. Now the other thing is I want to escape winter and just get the fuck out of here. So, bam, that's one of the other things. Then I was like, so I'm doing it as a stand-up comedy tour ostensibly so I can justify it from an entertainment perspective. But I want to go have these experiences. Adventure is like my favorite word in the world. Well, adventure and whimsical. I like both those words. But adventure is probably number one. And it's just, to me, it encompasses so much more than, you know, snake pits and boulders rolling after you like Indiana Jones stuff. Adventure is simply as simple as, you know, finding a no entry sign and then entering. You know, finding out for yourself instead of taking it upon the word of authority.
I totally agree with you. I was just talking about somebody that there's different levels of adventure.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of like you were saying about, you know, the knowledge, you know, like you can only... They're looking at the world through the knowledge they have. Some people's adventure, like you, might be like, you know, doing all this crazy stuff. Yeah. Me, it would be like, oh, I'm going to be doing like a open mic stand-up, because that would scare the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I do improv comedy, but stand-up, that would scare me. So every level is just...
But once you reach that threshold and that level, it becomes, okay, I can stay here where it's become comfortable, or I can push myself to the next thing.
Yeah, so I'll pull up a nice comfy chair, and you can go to the next level for me until I'm ready. So tell me more about this thing. It's like got so many elements. It's like you should be doing a documentary.
Well, that might actually be in the works. When I put it out there, I put it out there on Facebook the other day, and when I originally conceived of it, it was going to be start in Atlanta, have some filmmaker friends down there, see if I can maybe jump on some projects while I'm there. Then head down to Florida. I'd like to see the Everglades and the Keys. Then follow the Gulf Coast around, go to California. Then I'd love to see the Pacific Coast Highway. and then up to Vancouver, and then back home.
Now, this is not by car, right?
Hitchhiking.
Hitchhiking, yes.
But I was like...
But you're taking your skateboard too, right?
Well, that kind of came lately, and I'll tell you why. But I started thinking, I really want to make a trip down to South America. South America's been calling me for years. Aside from Antarctica, it's like the one continent I haven't been to yet. So I'm like, what if I just kind of follow the Gulf Coast all the way around through Mexico to Central America, right? Go to Brazil, and I want to go to fucking the rainforest and, try ayahuasca, which is one of the few natural sources of dimethyltryptamine, also known as like the spirit molecule, which makes you have spiritual experiences and stuff. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to make a fucking pilgrimage. And after thinking about, okay, California or Brazil, I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go down to Brazil. And so when I put that out there on Facebook, not only was it really well received, some people were like, dude, are you really serious about doing this?
I know. I wasn't sure. Again,
a lot of them only know me from the last few years of being working in entertainment. They don't know about the excursions and the shit I've done in the past, right? And like, going out and like sleeping on the side of the road, hitchhiking around, the world basically, or getting robbed, whatever it is. It's just, like for me, I don't joke. It's not a joke. And I wanted to do it with skateboarding because, one of the downfalls of hitchhiking is that you don't always get rides. And that's a necessary part of it. It's a beautiful thing, but it sucks sometimes.
Yeah. And
if I brought a bike, which was an option too, that would give me less rides hitchhiking because not everybody can fit a bike in the car.
Right.
But a skateboard is a good balance because not only do I love to do it, it's a very liberating, beautiful feel of gliding on the skateboard. It's amazing. But it makes me move a little bit faster, and I can still take a ride in a car if somebody wants to stop for me. But I had to rethink about the way I'm doing things now because I've carried a big backpack, which I have one for this purpose. It's heavy, and it's not so conducive to skateboarding. So I'm trying new configurations of my gear. I have a bunch of old Army gear that I've held on to from when I got out, and I'm trying to have the gear all strapped close to my body and kind of facilitate it in a way where I can be highly mobile, pack light and fast, and just kind of, have that free, liberating feeling and moving,
Wow, and when you plan to do this? Just before winter shows up?
I'm thinking I got obligations and commitments till about the end of October, so I'm looking for early November departure, which works for me, because I'm thinking to myself, November 11th last year, I was still outside, shirtless, working out, so it won't be too cold yet. I don't want to see any snow this year, though. I'm going to see if I can avoid it completely.
Very cool. Yeah. Sounds like an amazing adventure. You'll have to tell us all about it when you come back.
I'd love to. And, the big part of it now, too, is I'm going to show up to any comedy bar I can, or any bar in any town. It's like, you got a stage and a mic, let me tell jokes, even if it's not a comedy bar. But, and I'm really going to be relying... Sorry, there's a whole fifth aspect of the trip I haven't told you about yet, but it's just... I'm a very idealistic person, and I really think that people don't know how good they actually are. So when I say I'm going out there to help people, I mean help them in the sense of help them in a direct way if I can, but also, help them by showing them, by having a higher expectation for them. Because so often when we approach each other in day-to-day dealings, we expect the other person to be acquisitive, exploitative, advantageous, opportunistic, and they perform to that level. But I expect better from people. And when you expect better from people and you have that higher expectation, very often they'll go above and beyond and rise to that, right? And so there's a way in which I can help people by, showing them their better nature. And it's a little bit quixotic in that regard. Like, I'm a big fan of the book Don Quixote, and I'm rereading it again in preparation. And there's this whole idealistic, beautiful aspect of, like, take whatever comes and, help people along the way. And that's, to me, that's almost like that is probably the most important part of it,
Well, it sounds amazing. And thank you, Andre, for coming. Unfortunately, time is up.
Sorry, I talk at length.
No, I love it. I get mesmerized. I just look into your eyes, and you're so committed into it. And
you know what that is? I'm glad that comes across. That's the power of, I don't want the word belief, but belief and intention. It's like, this didn't just occur to me. This is important to me.
But when you tell me you do stuff, I can feel you're going to do it. Like, it's not just words. I can see your commitment, and that's why I can't wait to hear the stories when you get back.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to telling them, and hopefully there's a lot of experiences, both good and bad, that make great stories.
Well, Andre, thank you for coming. I hope you had a great time. I hope this was an adventure in its own right.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Well, thank you for listening, and we'll see you again next time. I'll talk to you real soon.
Awesome.